Fantastic. How many books do you have there? Yeah.
I kind of counted them a little while ago, and I know that there's over 300.
Over 300.
Over
Okay.
300. And I probably have, like, there's a lot of books down here that I haven't read yet.
Fantastic. So we are live now. So I really understand that you are not just an author, but also a fan you spend time to read books, yeah?
I love, well, part of my PhD required me to read a lot, so as
Okay.
well as write a lot. But I love reading. I work with an organization called Executive Book Review, executivebookreview.com. They're a nonprofit. And as a faculty member, we will read a book and then we'll create a presentation and we'll present that book to the members that attend that event. So this right now, I'm working on Cumulative Advantage by Mark Schaefer, and I'll be presenting that book on the fourth Friday of this month. So I'm currently working on my presentation for that, but yeah, I do a lot of reading.
Oh, okay. So, John, I do my best to do a research before this podcast, and I realized that there are some people on this planet. So, listen to me. Business owner, coach, consultant, author, speaker, educator, COO. When you have time for all this, John? When? You know that they have just 24 hours. Do you sleep?
Well, sleep when you're dead.
Okay, so that's your success formula. But
No,
no,
I actually, it's really what it boils down to is that when you do something, and oh, by the way, this is in one of these books, so Good to Great. When you do something over and over again, you get that flywheel effect that they talked about in the book Good to Great, and things get easier and easier to do it. You develop a routine, you establish processes, and it just becomes simpler to do things all the time. 20 years ago, I created a strategic plan for myself, my personal strategic plan. And in that plan, I outlined the things that I was going to do in my life to get me to the vision that I had for myself. And every week, I sit down on Sunday and I write out my weekly to-do list. It sits right here. It's like right there on the table. And I follow that every day. I add things to it throughout the week that, oh, that this just came up. So like I just came from being interviewed with Bernie, Texas radio in their farm and ranch show, their home and ranch show. And that was just something that the guy who runs it, he's like, hey, I want to interview you on this radio show. Can you come out here on Wednesday? And I'm like, well, I have to get back for this podcast with Alex because we've been trying to make this happen. But so it's just when you start doing things, this is what the really interesting thing, and I work with a lot of clients on this. When you start doing things that are focused on your goals, you'd be amazed at how much you can get done. Now, one of the things with me is I don't have any children. So children are a time-consuming thing. So, and I recognize this, but I don't have any. So that's one thing that's kind of saved me. But many years ago, I stopped watching TV. Occasionally, I'll watch a movie or I'll flip on Netflix on a weekend or something like that, just to kind of decompress. But for the most part, I don't watch TV at all. I don't watch anything. So football, news, none of it. I just leave it out there because I have found all the time that I was wasting watching television. And now it's, I got to fill it with something. So I keep myself extremely busy, and you'd be amazed at what you can do in your life when you focus on removing the distractions and working on things that are what I call productive, but goal focused.
My generation will ask you what it's a television, but it's just a joke. We spend a lot of time on the phone, so that's
I
why
know.
we don't have time for television. So
I'm on, I'm on social media a lot. So, this little device, it's very important to me, but I don't waste time on social media. Social media is a tool and I use it. I learn from it. So I go through and I'm looking at what are people posting that's interesting that I can comment on and I can add more value to. What can I post that's interesting and people will want to comment on it? So even, this little device, which can be a huge time sucker, I use that on purpose. If I had an app that told me how much time I was spending on social media, it'd probably be quite a lot. But it's part of what I do, and it's for purpose. It's goal focused.
So, okay. So tell me, please, what is the difference between working in your business and working on your business? Because I read an article on your blog about this difference. What is the difference between working in your business and or your business?
So it's a great question. And it's a lot of people will say that all the time, and they don't really understand what that means. So a lot of business owners, when they start out, they have to do everything. They're in charge of their marketing, they're in charge of their sales, they're managing their books, they're producing their product. If it's something that they sell, if it's an actual item, they're creating that. If it's a service, they're delivering that. That causes us to work in our business. We're focused on doing the job every day. We're not focused on the visionary aspects of what we should be doing as a business owner. So working on the business is I am constantly working to improve this business. I am setting strategy. I am out there making connections with people that are going to be influential for our business. I am looking for new ways to use the existing products and services, or I'm looking for new things that we can innovatively create for our organization. But if you're so busy working in the business, then you'll never work on the business. And when people start out, they have to do this, but what happens is they're good at certain things. Like you might be really good at sales. So you tend to gravitate to stay in sales. I'm going to run the sales team. I'm going to be in charge of that. But what that means is that you don't end up working on the business. A lot of times a CEO will also be doing the job of a COO. And again, book here. So there's a system called the entrepreneurial operating system. And you'll hear this term visionary versus integrator. In the EOS system, a visionary, your CEO, is somebody that's out there looking to the future and trying to grow the company through strategy. Whereas the integrator is more like your COO, and their job is to take that strategy. Usually they're really good at building the strategy too, but it's to take that strategy and to drive it down to the organization and make sure that everything from end to end in your operating model is working together to deliver on the customer experience. And when that COO doesn't exist, the CEO often is doing the COO role as well. So they become the visionary and the integrator. And, when you have two masters, who do you serve? You have to make a choice. So that's really, when you really get down to in versus on, that's what that means.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Yeah, I really understand. And I hope also the community are very happy with your answer. So after 20 years in Air Force, you decide to change the career. Why did you do that?
Well, it wasn't much of a change. so I was a cop when I went into the Air Force. Security police, they call it security forces now. And I did that for 10 years. And there was a point where there was these early outs that were happening in the Air Force. It was when Clinton had taken office, President Clinton had taken office, and he was drawing down the size of the military. And when that happened, there was a lot of people that were given opportunities to leave on what's called VSI SSB. So it was early outs. And there were incentive programs to get people out so they didn't have to force them out. I was working in a security forces squad or security police squadron cop, and there was a lot of people that had got out and they were coming back, and they were hanging out at the squadron drinking coffee. And I turned to one of them one day and I was like, what are you doing here? Like, didn't you retire, separate? What the heck? And they're like, oh, well, I'm waiting to get on with either the state police or the prison. I'm waiting for an opening. And I was like, really? That's what I have to look forward to? And not that it's, a horrible job, but it's not what I wanted to do. So I started really thinking about my future and my career and what I wanted to do. And it wasn't that I wanted to retire and go to work in a prison. That wasn't on my radar. And then I had the opportunity to retrain in the military in '98 to a kind of a new career field. The career field existed, but they expanded it, and it was called Manpower and Quality. And I had already started learning total quality management back in the early 2000s or the early 1992. So I understood what they were doing, but now they were formalizing this in the career field. And I took the opportunity and I retrained. And for 11 years, I worked as an internal coaching consultant for senior leaders, Air Force officers, and enlisted. And when I got out of the Air Force, I started my own business, but almost immediately I was approached by Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a major consulting firm, top 10 here in the nation, in the US. And they invited me to come and interview on a job that I actually had not applied for and they had not posted. So somebody had put my resume in and they found my resume in their system and said, oh, we'd like to interview this guy for this job that we know we need, but we haven't even posted yet. And I sat down across from the guy who was interviewing me that ran the team, and he had my resume there and all these words were circled in red. And he looked at me and he's like, every word that we were looking for in this job is on your resume. And I was like, so is this an interview or you just want to know when I'm going to start? He said, when can you start? So I continued to be a coach and consultant external with Booz Allen Hamilton. I ended up amassing over 3 years, 18 clients. And then I decided to leave and go to work for myself again. Almost immediately, I was picked up by United Services Automobile Association, or now a Fortune 100 company, and went in there as an internal coaching consultant. Initially started on a coaching, an actual contract for 6 months. And at the end of my first month, the executive director I was working with, he sat me down in the office and he said, when your 6 months are up, I'm hiring you. I was like, okay. And I did 7 years with them. And I worked on 4 strategic engagements. And then in 2019, I went back to working for myself again. I wanted to publish my first business book, and so I thought it was best to do that.
And today, what you are doing exactly? What on Cross CTR, right?
Yeah, so Crosscutter Enterprises is a personal and professional business coaching consulting company. And what I do is I work with individuals that are looking to improve their career, to establish direction and purpose in their life, to establish goals and meet those. And I work with businesses that they want to start a new business, they want to grow their business, they want to scale their business, or they want to improve their business. And generally all of those things rolled into one. So I work with both individuals and businesses. On top of that, my wife and I, we own a horse farm. That's a Fine Print Farms. And we have a couple of nonprofits, and I have a nonprofit business networking activity. So I do quite
Whiskey,
a lot.
and cigars.
Yeah. Yeah, you like that, don't you?
No, it's amazing. You need to tell us a little bit about this whiskey business and cigar. How cool could be?
So 2 years ago, I'm sitting with a couple of friends of mine, and we're sitting down and we're talking business over whiskey and cigars. And I realized that how relaxing that environment was. And I said, we really should like establish some type of group. And they were like, yeah, that's a good idea, but of course they were just giving me the platitudes. It's a good idea. And I drove home from that, and I was thinking about it on the drive home, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. So I created Whiskey Bidness, and Cigars, and we started meeting in this social business networking event, and it's huge. People love it. So we started it 2 years ago, and then during COVID, we've paused it, but I'm about ready to start it again because Texas is open, masks down, 100% open. So when we held our first event, actually it was our second event, first event was here at the farm, but our first event out in the business wilds, we were at a humidor, and the event goes from 6 to 9. The place closes at 9 o'clock. There were people that were waiting when I got there to set up. So I get there like 5:30. There was like 3 or 4 people that were sitting there on their laptops working in the humidor, waiting for this thing to start. We have this event, and it was fantastic. I mean, these people are in groups, they're talking, they're having fun. 9 o'clock comes around, only one person had left. And that's because he had to fly out the next morning. The business actually had to come out and tell us we had to leave because they were closing. And one of the guys turns to me and he goes, "Where's the after party?" I found this every event. Almost everybody stays throughout the entire 3 hours and then hangs out afterwards. It's amazing. So we have one rule is that you keep your business card in your pocket for as long as possible. What that does is it forces this environment where we're building relationships, we're getting to know people, because when you're sitting there sipping whiskey and smoking a cigar takes like an hour to smoke. So it's not like something you just like walk up and you talk to somebody for 5 seconds and have them your business card and move on to the next thing. You actually get to know people, and because we're relaxed, and it's been super effective. And there's people who are clamoring for me to restart the program.
That's great. Yeah, great concept. I didn't heard about it before I make the research to interview you. Let's change a little bit the subject. What is your favorite book?
My favorite book would be Simon Sinek's Start With Why. So Simon Sinek, when he wrote that book, I got it almost immediately, and I didn't know anything about it at all. Now you can go and Google him and just do Start With Why in YouTube, and you can see everything about the book. But it just really spoke to me from the perspective of everything starts with strategy. Everything starts with purpose. If you don't have a mission and purpose, then you could be successful, but you will just jump from success to success without direction. And I was just speaking with this friend of mine, Jane Lehman, she had got involved with this thing. I do a 60-day challenge on LinkedIn where you post original content every day for 60 days. And I got her to do it. And she was right near the end of the 60 days. And she posted this thing saying about, like, when you have a goal and you're about to achieve it, how does that make you feel? Like, what's next? Where do I go? And the thing is that when you don't have a direction in your life, that purpose and that mission with a vision, all of your activities, they're not connected. And that's where Start With Why really struck home with me. And it's been out for a while, but it really struck home with me as to the importance of having your why in your life.
Thank you very much. Yeah, great answer. I need you to be 100% honest for this question because it's a hard one.
Okay.
Being a Forbes Council member bring you more clients and value, or you are there to help others with free informations?
So on the Facebook group, I actually belong to probably close to about 300 groups. I am only active on maybe 5 of them, and yours is one of them. And it's because I get a lot of discussion. I can post on other groups and then nothing happens. But your group, there's a lot of people that they'll talk, they'll challenge what I have to say, they'll share information. So I get a lot of that. And you know that I will call out people and I will report them if they're spamming people and trying to sell Bitcoin and crap like that. I want it to be a good group for entrepreneurs, business owners to really have good discussions. One of the groups, I created a group here in San Antonio, Texas, that is only for CEOs, presidents, and business owners. That's it. And I don't let anybody market on there. I shut it down. Everything is approved by me. And it is a safe place for these people to talk on social media. Because a lot of times, the business owners, the CEOs, the presidents, they don't say anything. They're out there, they're reading stuff, but they don't say anything because they know the minute that they announce their presence with a post or a comment that they're going to get attacked by people trying to market services to them. So your organization, the whole purpose is really to generate in-depth conversation around subjects that are, from my perspective, hashtag business and hashtag success.
Okay. Oh, what's the best book you put it out there on the market? So you spend time, you think about it, you print it, you go with the book on the market. What's your best book?
So I have 3 books out. One of them was designed to teach me how to do self-publishing. It's post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy. It was fun, but it taught me how to do the self-publishing. And that was back when CreateSpace existed, before, like Kindle Direct Publishing, which is what we use now to get on Amazon. But actually, this is my business book that I published in 2019. It's called Overcoming Organizational Myopia, Breaking Through Siloed Organizations. And it took me 10 years to write and publish this book. I had seen, and really the concepts come from 25, 30 years of seeing things that happen in business because of this thing called the business silo. So businesses are always reorganizing, moving, offices around and people around. A lot of times you'll hear people say we need to tear down or we need to break down the silos. But what I refer to is they're always moving the deck chairs on the Titanic, because they're not really solving the problems by reorganizing what's going on. They think by shuffling it up that they're going to improve things. And for years, I saw this happening over and over again, these same problems in different companies everywhere, military, nonprofit, for-profit, it didn't matter. I'd see it always. And over time, I started to realize that this concept of tearing down a silo is one of the worst things that you can actually do in an organization. See, we create silos in our business. As we grow, we start to functionally specialize. So we will create an HR department so that we have professional human resources people working in there. We will create a finance department with a CFO and a bookkeeper, because we need the expertise in finance. We will create marketing. We will create sales. We will take the operations department and we will segment them between project management and project delivery and supply chain and logistics. And we'll take that project delivery and we'll break it up between this geography and that geography or time zones. And we do that on purpose because that's how you scale to meet growth. That's how you expand your organization. So the importance of silos is just like on a farm. We're trying to keep things separate. We're trying to focus on, being really good at all of these different things. But the problem with silos is that this thing called organizational myopia, organizational short-sightedness, starts to crop in. And that's where the silo stops focusing on why they exist and they start focusing on themselves. They stop communicating with people. Their strategy is no longer focused on the organization. It's focused on their agenda. Their processes are not end-to-end anymore. They're sub-optimized, and they're looking at what's going on only in their silo. And this is why businesses tear down the silos, because they think the silo is the problem. But that's just a symptom. The root cause are several things that are happening. So like the leaders of the organization don't understand what's going on. There's a problem right there. There's a lack of communication between the silos. Well, we need to fix the communication issues. How do we do that? There's technology. Technology is a huge silo creator. So you could have in marketing, they're using a certain type of technology to manage their marketing activities. But then they're going to pass over a warm lead to the sales department. Sales department is going to close on that warm lead. Now you've got to move that warm lead into a CRM that perhaps marketing was not using. They were using something else. And now we sell that person, and they're going to push that person over into operations to do project management, but the project management software is separate, or maybe they don't even have any. So the CRM contact dies at that point, and finance is trying to figure out, how do I bill these people, because my system doesn't talk to your system. So this is what's going on in organizations, and people don't take the time to dig deep to really understand why it's happening. So this book is all about the 9 reasons why organizational myopia forms and how to overcome it.
Okay, so this is the best one, yeah?
I believe it is.
Yes,
the best one ever.
Spending 10 years to write a book, yeah, I think you are just a few people on this planet spend 10 years to write a book, yeah?
Well, some people spend their entire life and never write a book, so.
Yeah, so yeah, this is the second situation. Tell me the best advice in business you know and you can share with our community.
So I would say the best advice would be that you have to have a strategic plan. If you're running a business and you haven't sat down and wrote out your strategy and then follow it, a lot of people, they'll create, especially when they start out, they'll create a business plan. They'll download a business plan template from the internet and they'll fill it out. And then they'll file it on their computer. They might give it to somebody that they're trying to get money from, but they'll file it on their computer and they'll never look at that thing again. So whenever I work with any company, the first thing I ask them is, I want to see your strategic plan. Oh yeah, I have one. Let me get that for you. And then I'll remind them, like, hey, I want to see your strategic plan. Oh yeah, I'm looking for it. It's somewhere in my files. No, you don't have a strategic plan. What you do is you have a document that said, at the time I wrote this is what my business looked like. So a strategic plan means exactly what it says. It's a plan. It is taking you somewhere. You are following it. I was a war planner in the Air Force for 7 years. Yeah. So how many people do you know that are a war planner? But I did war planning for 7 years, and we had plans for everything. And if there was a contingency, a thing that happened, we'd pull a plan off the shelf. We might adjust that plan a little bit, but we had a plan for everything we did. And I really saw the importance of having those plans when COVID happened. So that was horrible. I mean, it affected the entire world. The entire business world was impacted by this. And most people had no plan to respond to it. I did. I got
Me
laid
too.
off.
Me too.
Yeah, I was working for somebody, a client that had hired me as their COO. And because I was the most expensive person, I told him, I said, you really need to lay me off. I mean, I'm a brand new employee and I can save 4 jobs if you lay me off. And eventually decided, yeah, that's probably the right thing to do. And I got laid off right as everybody was going work from home. When trying to restart your own coaching and consulting business in the middle of a pandemic, that's pretty hard. But I'll tell you what I did. I pulled out my plan. All right, where am I? What do I need to focus on? And I immediately started writing my 3rd book, Business 2020, The Business World After COVID-19. I wrote that book in 4 months. As soon as that book was done, I wrote a book that's in edit right now called Becoming Unbelievably Successful. And I expect to have that published this year. I've been working on 2 other books. I started focusing on, okay, what is it going to take to build my business? Our horse farm did great. We are over capacity right now. We have a waiting list. There's so many people that want to get out and be out on a 100-acre property where they feel safe and they don't have to worry about anything. But a lot of companies, they didn't plan for this. And a lot of people will tell me, and they've told me this to my face, well, John, nobody could have planned for a pandemic. I said, absolutely could have. Because anybody can say, what's the possibility of the government shutting down what you do? What's the possibility of your building that you operate out of burning down? What's the possibility of there a law being passed that makes what you do illegal? I mean, yeah, those things can happen. So you certainly could have planned for that. And if you even thought about, given the time to think about something like that, you would have been more prepared for what happened. Yeah, nobody would have predicted that we would have this horrible pandemic unless you're Bill Gates. I mean, yeah, because he obviously did predict it. I mean, several years ago, he predicted it. I have the video. But
Yeah, I know. Right now, he paid the price. Yeah,
yep.
he's.
I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, if you know that it's coming, people are going to question, like, how much do you really know? But yeah, planning is by far the most important thing. And when I work with a client, if you don't have a plan, we're going to create a plan. Because why are you working with me? Why would you hire the services of an expensive coach and consultant if you don't even know why you want to do it, if it's not in your plan? That's a good question, isn't it? Like, why would you do this? You don't have a strategy for that. You're just jumping it. I think I have a problem, so I'm going to hire. Wait a minute. Let's slow us back up and let's figure out why you actually need. I might tell you, yeah, you need me, but the first thing we're going to do is figure out where you're going and how you're going to get there. And part of it will be, okay, I'm going to help you, but you have to have a plan first.
a strategic plan.
Yep.
I have just 3 more questions. I think the next one is, what is success for you, John?
So I'm writing about this. So my book, Becoming Unbelievably Successful, it's really important to me. I use this term, I've been using it for years, as a success incubator. I help people find success. That's, to me, success is helping other people find success. But what I've realized is, how much do you know about Maslow and Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yeah, I know a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. So, you've got the triangle, and at the top of the triangle is self-actualization. And have you ever felt self-actualization before? You ever done something that you're like, wow, that felt so good, and you just felt like you were in your zone? And it's not something that happens a lot, but when it happens, you're like, oh, that felt great. That's self-actualization. When you have a clear purpose and vision and you're doing things to meet that goal all the time, you start to self-actualize over and over and over again, repeatedly. And you start to experience these things. You had asked, one of the first questions you asked was about, how do you get all these things done? It's because I love doing them, because I get so much of a high out of being, completing a book, publishing a book. Oh, that felt so good. 10 years worth of work, but I don't want to wait 10 years to publish this book. I want to have those kind of experiences all the time. And by establishing a structure, a goal, a purpose in your life, and knowing that you're getting closer and closer to it every day, that is success. That is unbelievable success.
Thank you very much. Yeah, a very good answer. I just read an article, The New Normal. You have this article on the internet. So, leading virtual organization. Yeah. Work from home. WF each. And do you think this is just for a period of time, or this is something that will change the way we work for the next 50 years?
At the beginning of this pandemic, I did not think that this was going to, like many people, we thought that this was a couple of months and we'll be back to normal and everybody will be back in the office. Everybody thought that. We all thought it. Somebody's going to solve this problem for us. And I was one of the people that I even wrote about it in Business 2020. I wrote that, oh yeah, this work at home thing, it's not going to last. It is changing the landscape of businesses, because many businesses that thought they could never do this were forced to do it. So they had to. And I know some businesses right here in San Antonio, I've talked to some CEOs that never did it. They actually never worked from home. They flaunted I'm not going to do that, because they feel that they can't. Then we continued to do this. And what happened is that employee and customer behaviors have started to change.
Yeah.
Our expectations are changing. And people now are starting to go, all right, I'm in a rhythm now. Of course, it was hard for a lot of people because it's change. Change is bad. I can't handle that until you figure out how to do it, and then don't change it. But now people are like, I couldn't see not working at home. And a lot of businesses have already said, you know what, we don't even need this office anymore. We're going to get rid of it. So we're going to sell off our corporate headquarters, and we're going to go to, maybe we'll have a co-working location where people can actually come in and have meetings and get to know each other a couple times a week. But for the most part, we're going to be working from home. So this new normal, the challenge, and what that article is all about, is that we've been for many years teaching and learning how to manage virtual teams. With you just read, I'm going to throw a lot of books out there, but, the world is flat. The world is hot, flat, and crowded. So it's all about, how we've become more of a virtual nation, and we're able to work across, I don't even know how much distance is between you and me right now. And we're on this call.
100 kilometers.
You already figured that out, or you're just throwing that out there? 97.3% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
Okay.
That was just made up on the spot. But we have this ability to manage people because we've learned how to do it. Leading an organization is totally different. Leading a virtual organization, leaders are not used to that. They're used to, walking out their door and talking to their administrative assistant, having everybody come into their office for a powwow, doing the management by walking around, and I'm going to get to know everybody and, talk to them. You can't do that when it's virtual. you have to figure out how to deal with people in a Zoom environment, the virtual environment. And that is a challenge for leaders. And it's going to be a challenge for a while for them to really be able to connect with employees in a virtual environment.
I think this is also something very good because it's good for arrogant people. They cannot be in front of the camera like this, yeah?
Yep. Well, they have to learn to stand. You notice that I'm standing. So that's one of the things. In the very beginning, so my office, my wife and I, we have offices on the farm here, and my wife's right down the hall. So I was sitting and I was giving a presentation. So I do a lot of public speaking, and I'm giving this presentation, and my wife's been to some of my public speaking events before, and she walked down after that event and she said, that kind of sucked, because she could hear me. And I was like, yeah, I know. I felt it, like I wasn't very motivated. And I realized what it was is I was sitting in this chair right here, and I wasn't standing. And when I stand, I can be animated and energetic. So I got myself a sit-stand desk, and I have a little thing that props up my laptop, so I'm looking in the camera and not looking down on the camera. But I even have a light, that kind of puts the soft light on me versus a big fluorescent light that washes me out, makes me look like I'm undead. But this is important. This is virtual world that we live in. And if you're going to be a leader of an organization, would you rather lead with energy, standing and talking to people and using your hands and being excited? Or would you rather sit behind your desk and I'd like to welcome you to our town hall for this afternoon? And yeah, that's not exciting.
It's not. Yeah, I really appreciate your time. What's your website where people can find you?
So they can find me at www.crosscttr.com. So Crosscutter abbreviated. And I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, on the major sites. I'm very active out on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's probably got the most activity because of the business connection, but that's how people can get hold of me.
I think also people can read a lot of interesting article on Forbes from you, right?
I think I have close to 100 features out there now.
In Forbes?
In Forbes. So I have, I think, close to 20 articles. I just posted one. We just had one post on Monday. And there's this thing called Expert Panel. I refer to it as Expert Voices sometimes, but it's called Expert Panel. And what they do is they post every 2 weeks, they post a bunch of questions. And these are questions that they give from business owners and business coaches, or just coaches in general, not necessarily business. And they'll pose these questions to the Forbes Coaches Council. And then we can go on and we can respond with what I refer to as the Twitter response. So it's only 400 character response. And then they make a determination out of all of the people that submitted what 10 to 15 of those they're going to select. And I know that I've been out there close to 70 times now. So I'm getting close to 100 features on Forbes, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Also, on our community, you have more than 100.
Well, I post every day. Every day I will post something that has to do with business or success.
And
Typically
I thank you very
both.
much for that. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for your time, John. And
well, I appreciate it. It took us a little while to make this happen, but it's happened.
Yeah. Sorry for the last time. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I want to say sorry, not in private, but in front of the community.
Well, I'll chastise you. No, no, it was things can't be avoided. But obviously, we've been talking about doing this for probably about 3 months now. So
yeah. Thank you very much, John. I wish you a fantastic day.
All right, you have a great day too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.